Alright, what's going on, guys? So, we're back for another video. I'm sorry, it's been a while, but with school and everything, it just um, was really busy and a lot of stuff going on. But finally back filming another video. Hopefully, we'll be more consistent with our uploads, at least twice a week. Hopefully, that's the goal. Um, but football is back in 22 days. So, today we're going to have a college football preview, previewing each conference and my predictions for each conference as well as playoff teams. And then we're going to touch the Urban Meyer subject a little bit. That's interesting. I don't want to dive too deep into that, but we're going to hit that a little bit. I'm super excited for football. I know most of y'all are too. Can't wait for the season. And then just quick heads up, tomorrow I will be heading to UGA's Fan Day. Hopefully get some good footage and pictures, and have a UGA specialty preview up tomorrow night. That's the goal. All right, so let's get into it. All right, first, before we dive into college football and its greatness and the preview, I want to talk about Urban Meyer. For those of y'all that didn't know, one of their coaches was recently fired, Zach Smith, after accusations arose from domestic violence. Now, Urban Meyer's been placed on administrative leave after accusations were made that he knew about the situation and did not tell anyone. Very interesting. Ohio State has hired outside figures to come in and investigate. Urban will not be coaching until they finish the investigation. Very interesting stuff. Zach Smith spoke on ESPN and said that the AD knew and didn't do anything, and said Urban Meyer really didn't know. Urban Meyer says he took the necessary steps and precautions and let those people know. It's really interesting right now. Looking at it, it's a little blurry. I'm not sure who's telling the truth, what's right and what's wrong. But I don't think Urban Meyer will be back at Ohio State. I think Bob Stoops will be the new coach at Ohio State pretty soon, as soon as they fire Urban. I don't think Urban will be done in college football. I think he'll find a job somewhere, probably a little smaller school to start off with, but he won't be done. But I don't think we will see him at Ohio State on the sidelines anymore. Still very interesting situation. A lot's going to come out soon, so we'll see how that wraps up. But it's just a weird situation. It's definitely a shocker, and I think it brings Ohio State down in the power rankings, as well as we'll see what happens to their recruiting class for next year. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those guys decommit from Ohio State and go elsewhere. I know there's a few guys from the state of Georgia that are committed there, and I could definitely see them decommitting to go somewhere like Bama or Georgia. But you never know. We'll see. Now I do want to get into a preview of what the season might look like in college football based on my thoughts and my opinions. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the power ranks that just came out. Then I want to do a conference-by-conference prediction as well as playoff prediction and wrap up. So the power rankings came out, or I guess the AP poll came out the other day. It's the first one, and it has Bama number 1. No surprise there. They deserve it. Clemson number 2. I definitely understand this. They have one of the best D-lines maybe in college football history just based off of talent. Ohio State is 3. Georgia is 4. I think Ohio State should move down, and I don't think they deserve to be at 3 right now, especially after Urban Meyer's been placed on administrative leave. I don't think Ohio State will have it this year. I don't think they're for real, especially without Urban Meyer. Let's see. Georgia has now jumped Alabama for the 2019 recruiting class with 4 less players. Just recently got the number 1 junior college player in the nation, went to Independence, was on last GNCU to commit to Georgia. So we are now the number 1 class in the nation for next year, which is very exciting. Now I want to kind of talk about each conference, each Power 5 conference, and go one by one and have my predictions for the championship game and who I ultimately think will win the conference. And then I want to talk about who I think will make the college football playoffs this year. So let's start with the Pac-12. This is the conference I know the least about. Washington's really hyped up. They're in the top 10. Some you even see them in the top 5. They do have a nice week 1 matchup against Auburn. I don't think they will win. That's in Atlanta. I see Oregon coming out of the Pac-12 North and USC coming out of the Pac-12 South, with USC taking the championship. I think Oregon will shock a lot of people. They do have a good recruiting class. And I don't think Washington will live up to the hype, even though they do have Jake Browning. I just don't think they're for real, and I don't think they can win the big-time games. Let's move on to the Big 12. Now, the Big 12 does not have divisions. It's strictly just top 2 teams in the conference. I think at the end of the season, we'll see Oklahoma and TCU in the championship game, with Texas coming in a close third. I do think Texas is for real, just not all the way this year, but they're working to get back up there. I do think TCU will be good. They have a really good matchup against Ohio State in Week 3. Oklahoma will still be really good. They've got a great coach in Lincoln Riley and a great recruiting class, so I'm excited to see what they'll do this season. I think OU will win the championship and repeat, just like last year in the Big 12. Let's move on to the Big 10 now. I don't think Ohio State will win their division, strictly because I don't believe Urban Meyer will be the coach for this team this year, and that'll cause a lot of problems within the team. I see Michigan State coming out of that division and going to the championship game. Michigan is consistently overrated, and I don't think they are for real, even with Shea Patterson. I could see them going in 9-3, 8-4. They're always overrated, and they never can pull out the big wins, especially with Ohio State. Harbaugh just hasn't gotten it done yet in college. On the other side of the Big Ten, I think Wisconsin's the easy favorite. I think they're top 5, definitely top 10, but some polls have them top 5 in the nation. They've got a really easy schedule, although they do play some bigger teams from the East this year. I see Wisconsin beating Sparty Party in that championship game. We'll see if that ends up happening. I think Wisconsin has a shot to make the playoffs. Not likely, but they have a shot. Let's go to the ACC. The ACC, in my opinion, is pretty... it's a consistent conference in that there's a strong top to bottom, but there's some pretty clear favorites, and there's no real elite teams besides Clemson. Clemson will definitely win their division and get to the championship game, and I think Miami will win theirs as well. Virginia Tech can make a push, but I think Miami's the best team in their division for sure. Clemson will once again kill Miami in the championship game, and I think Clemson will make it back to the playoffs. Their D-line is a bunch of studs. You know they're good when they have 5-star recruits coming off the bench. Not too much to talk about the ACC. Pretty boring conference with a lot of mediocre teams. Now let's get into the SEC. The SEC East, definitely have my dogs winning the East. The East won't be much competition, as it normally is not. South Carolina will be better. Florida will be better, but no team can really compete with Georgia this year in the East in that division. Georgia has a pretty easy schedule, especially if they're out of conference. UMass, Austin Peay, Georgia Tech, and Middle Tennessee State. That should be an easy 4-0. So, not too much of a tough schedule. Tech will be interesting just because it's a rival game. We do have Auburn at home this year and LSU on the road, so those are our toughest games. Also, South Carolina on the road week 2. SEC West will be close. I think the top 3 will be Bama, Auburn, and LSU, but Bama will win it and meet Georgia in the SEC Championship for a rematch of last year's national championship. I know some of y'all might not agree with me, but I do think Georgia will win this game. We did lose a lot of guys from last year, but it's just reloading at this point, so I see Georgia being able to beat Bama in that game in December. Looking forward to it, though. I do expect us to get there, and I expect Bama to as well. Now let's get into a quick playoff predictions. As the number 1 seed, I think it'll be Clemson. I think they will run the table, maybe 1 loss with a definitive championship win in their conference, so they will be the number 1 seed coming into the playoffs. I think Georgia will be the number 2 seed going into the playoffs. I think we definitely have a great chance to run the table, but if not, I could see us coming out 1-loss champion or a no-loss second place in the conference, losing to Bama, although I do think we will beat them, as I just said. So I see Georgia as the number 2 seed. I see This is where it gets a little interesting. It's hard. I don't think the Pac-12 really is all that, so I don't think they'll make it. The Big Ten will be interesting without Ohio State. I don't know if Wisconsin can make it. They don't have the strength of schedule. No team from the ACC will make it other than Clemson. I'm going to go with OU at that number 3 spot, and I think my reasoning is that they still have a great recruiting class, great coach. Kyler Murray should be a good quarterback for them. I think they'll win the Big 12 with 1 loss during the season, so we will see a rematch of Georgia-Oklahoma in the semifinal. And finally, to wrap up the number 4 seed, I don't think the committee will leave a Big Ten team out of the playoffs again after they've done it the past year. I don't think we'll see 2 SEC teams. I think Bama will be a 1-loss runner-up in their conference, which will not be enough to get into the playoffs, although they always seem to be able to sneak their way in and win it all, just like they did after not winning the conference or their division a few years ago when they beat LSU in the national championship and obviously last year. But I think Wisconsin will sneak by with the 4 seed. I think they're no match for Clemson, so Clemson should win that. I think Georgia will win the semifinal against Oklahoma again, and the national championship will be very interesting between Georgia and Clemson. I'm going to make a prediction. It's a little biased, but I can't go against my dogs, and I'm going to say we're going to win a close one by about 3 or 4 points and take it over Clemson, although their defense is a bunch of studs. So these are some light predictions for the season. We'll talk a lot more about football as it gets closer and as it begins. Like I said, I want to have a UGA preview out pretty soon for you guys, especially if I get footage from Band Day tomorrow. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you made it to the end. Really appreciate the support, so keep it up, guys.